Hello everybody, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be looking at our severe weather threat for today. Hurricanes that could be impacting parts of Puerto Rico, the Caribbean, and then maybe potentially even parts of Florida and maybe even the Carolinas or the Gulf states. Then we're also going to be looking at a winter storm that looks to develop over parts of northern Montana, North Dakota, and then into the northern Rockies, and then southern Canada as well. So that system could bring about 1 to 2 feet of snow. We're going to get right into it here as we start off with the National Weather Service. In those blues, that is winter storm watches. That's where you could be seeing a few inches of snow from this system that's dipping in through Canada, gonna kind of go like that, and then proceed northward, and then into Canada, as most of these systems actually do. Then we have high wind watches in those golds. That's for winds that could be 30, 40, 50, 60 miles per hour sustained, especially over those higher elevations. I wouldn't be surprised if you had a couple 70 or 80 mile per hour sustained winds. Red flag warnings over in these pink areas over northern California and southeast Wyoming, and then flood advisories over parts of Arkansas, Oklahoma, and then also for Arizona and New Mexico, and then severe thunderstorm watches over parts of Kansas, where we could have some very intense thunderstorms over the next few hours today. Here's your categorical outlook for today. This was made by the National Weather Service, and you see we have a slight risk in those yellows. Yesterday we had a slight risk in those same areas, but then I forecasted it to actually increase into an enhanced risk, and actually did end up doing that. They like to do that a lot, where they kind of bump it up as you get closer to the event. So now we have an enhanced risk over parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and then even the tiniest bit of Nebraska. Now, here is the chance of tornadoes. You rarely see a 10% in those yellows. So definitely, if you're in the yellow or the brown, even the greens, you should be watching out for tornadoes. And if you do get a tornado warning, that means that a funnel cloud was spotted in that area, or from satellite radar they saw some spin in the atmosphere, which indicates a tornado. So that means either there's a tornado, there is a potential tornado, or there's a funnel cloud which could turn into a tornado. So tornado warnings have to be taken very seriously. Go to the interior room or to the basement if you do get one of those on your phone, or if you hear it on the TV or the radio. You have a 5% in those browns, and then a 2% in those greens. Now here's your chance for wind damage. You have a 15% chance in that yellow. That's where you could have some gusty winds sustained around 30, 40 miles per hour, as that gust line kind of moves in from Minnesota down to Iowa and then Indiana. That's where right on that line where the storms are kind of in this area, and then the gusts are right before that, and so you get those gusty winds right after that torrential rainfall. Now, actually, it's the opposite. It's the gusts before and then the rain after. Now, here's your hail outlook. You have a 5% chance in those browns, so that's over parts of North Dakota, Montana, and then Minnesota, and then also for Arizona and New Mexico, that little southern tip of those two states, and then this big swath for much of the Midwest. In those yellows, you have 15% chance. In those reds, you have a 30% chance. So, high likelihood of hail in those areas, and then a significant risk of hail anywhere in that black shaded region for Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and then parts of Nebraska. Now, here's your simulated radar from the HRRR model. Now, as we move this along, you kind of see how the storms move throughout the area. This would be for tonight into tomorrow morning. Depends on where you are. So parts of Indiana might be seeing these systems move into their area by tomorrow morning, while areas in Minnesota and Iowa and Wisconsin are currently seeing it at this moment. So it depends on where you are when you're going to see those winds. Those storms. Here's your precipitation forecast. So this from the HRRR, the same model. They have in those reds you have 2 to 3 inches, and then in those browns 3 to 3.8 inches, and then 4 to 6 inches in those purples. And then if you are in a pink, that is 6+ inches. So you see over parts of southern Kansas, you have those 3 to 3.5 inch readings, and then also for parts of southwest Iowa, you also have some very heavy rainfall and a lot of rain accumulating over that area. Here's your Atlantic, and we have 3 systems and then 1 area to watch. So we have Jerry over here, which is gonna move off to sea, so we don't really have to worry about Jerry unless for some reason it takes some random turn to the right. That does not look like it likely to happen. It's kind of steering around this high pressure, which is gonna steer Karen to the left, most models say, and into Florida, and then it might pass through Florida. Some models, the longer range models, the models that can go farther out, are having it go through Florida and then go up through Texas and Louisiana, or others are kind of splitting it that way. So too far out to say, but we'll have to see what that does. And then Lorenzo is going to bend around this high pressure. So this high pressure is really affecting this. Jerry is going around it. That's what's leading it to go away, because we also have this high pressure right around here. And then Karen is steering around it. Karen's actually going around it this way. And then Lorenzo is going to try and turn around this way before it hits the high pressure. So this high pressure is really influencing all of these systems. And then this system right over here, that has a less than 40% chance of developing within the next couple of days over this area. If it does develop, it would be over parts of northern Texas, southern Texas, and northern Mexico. Now, this is mainly to see where the Saharan dust is. And if you don't know, Saharan dust is the dust that comes off of Africa, and it usually moves westward. So that dust is gonna allow the systems to kind of depreciate. And so it's definitely good if you don't want to see these systems. So we're going to look over here to see if there is any Saharan dust. In those yellows and oranges and reds, that's Saharan dust. So we have Jerry right around here, and Jerry is going to look to go into some Saharan dust, and so it's going to weaken. Now Karen looks to also get into some of this Saharan dust or this drier air, and that will definitely help get rid of Karen. And Jerry is currently in some of that Saharan dust, and that's why it's weakening. Here's the key messages. Nope, that's the wrong one. Here, for Karen, right here, this is your cone of uncertainty. And yeah, so it's going to stay as a tropical storm all the way until the max forecasting time period. And you see in those blues over here down at Puerto Rico, almost all of Puerto Rico is under a tropical storm warning, which means that you will be seeing tropical storm conditions within the next 24 hours. So definitely something to watch out for. Here's the model guidance for Karen. And we have almost all the models, all the models have it going over Puerto Rico, but then most of the models have it kind of taking that sudden left, as we were talking about, that sudden left because of that ridge of high pressure. Some of these models have the high pressure weakening or moving a little bit more to the west, which will allow those systems to move northward. So if that were to happen, that would actually be very good, because it wouldn't affect any of Florida. It wouldn't affect anybody. It would just go off to sea, potentially affect Bermuda a little bit with some rainfall. Here's the GFS ensemble models. So here's all the members of the GEFS, and you see there's a lot of models here, but you see there's a pretty wide cone. Some of these models have it breaking down, the high pressure breaking down. So that would be any models that would be in here. The models that are out here have this high pressure staying, and then it will have it going over Florida as a fairly strong system, maybe a tropical storm or even a category 1 or 2 hurricane, and it'll further intensify as it goes over those warmer waters over off the shore of Florida and then near the Bahamas. Here is the EPS track guidance, and this is the European ensemble models, and you see you see pretty much the same story as the GEFS, and that is so this is the GEFS, and then this is the European ensemble, and you see the models kind of spreading out after that, about 72 hours out when it meets this high pressure. So if this high pressure does break, that would be the best case scenario because it would lead to this system moving off the sea and it wouldn't affect anybody. But most of the models actually have it going over parts of Florida and parts of the southeast. Time to talk about the winter storm. So look over here in the northwest, and that's where your system is going to be. And those blues, that's snow, and the darker the blue, the heavier the snowfall rates are. So this would be for Saturday, and now into Sunday we see the snowstorm intensifying and kind of spreading into that colder upper elevation air. Now it kind of moves a bit northward by Monday, and then by Thursday, kind of leap a little bit. By Thursday, it sits over Montana and the Dakotas for a fairly long time, about 4 days, and then it finally moves out. I want to show you a couple of the model runs because the models have only been trending upwards with the amount of snowfall. So here's the European model. Here's the latest run of the European. So you see in those blues, that's 3 feet of snowfall. That's in mainly the mountains. But then in those pinks, you have about 10 inches to about 2 feet of snowfall. So you see how most of Montana is actually getting a decent amount of snow, about 3 or 5 inches in those lower elevation areas. Here's the model run. Here's the run of the European model before this latest run, and then here's the one before that, and here's the one. So here's the one before that, and then after that. So you see how it's kind of only been getting more snowfall. So you see over this is the latest one, and then this the one before that, the one before that, and the one before that. It's been over the same area, but it's just been adding more snowfall to the totals, and actually a max on the European model, the latest one, somewhere in this area is getting 52.8 inches as a max. It says up there in the top right. So definitely a lot of snowfall for those upper elevations. Here's a comparison of them all side by side, so you can kind of see the top left is the newest model run, and the top and the bottom right is the fourth run down. If you did enjoy that video, guys, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. It really supports the channel a lot. Anyways, that was Eli, the weather guy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.